Welcome to Conversations with Character. I am here with Derek, the West Side Askew, who is an independent artist. He is a hustler, bro. He does so many things other than music, but with music, bro, this is the one of the most consistent posting, fire-ass track artist that you'll meet, bro. Like his flow is unmatched, his lyricism is unmatched, his topics are unmatched. I got to know him in one of my very first interviews. I mean, this was like almost a year ago, and I looked at the old the format that I had it in, bro. I'm like, I'm cringing looking at it, you know. But he's an OG. Can't wait to catch up with him, man. For real, like the last time we talked, you know, you were not, I mean, honestly, you were like about a year into the music thing. Now you're about 2 years into it.
Yeah.
Like really taking it seriously. But this content you've been putting out has been badass.
Oh man, you know, I appreciate that, you know, you've been tapping in, tuning in with me. I definitely appreciate that. So yeah, you know, at this point, you know, when it comes to, you know, making content and, you know, everything like that, that's just kind of, you know, where it seems like everything is, you know, especially if you're not trying to be in like a big label artist, you want to do things on your own. It seems like that's the avenue you have to go. You
Content is king, bro.
You know what I'm saying? It's like new currency, honestly. So, you know, I just look at it like every time you post something, whatever you're doing, if you're in the creative, especially if you're in the creative space, you know, you're giving yourself another opportunity for somebody to see, you know, because that's how, you know, we see things around the world. We see people who were great, who blew up or whatever. You really only gotta like hit once. Like if you really think about it, like everything doesn't have to be amazing. Like I don't know everything about Steve Jobs, but if he had 50 failures, no one gives a fuck because he got Apple. So nothing else really matters. And that's kind of how I look at content. I don't really get caught up in like how many likes, how many comments. All that stuff is awesome. I mean, I kind of just do it because I like to do it. But if I look at it like, hey, just go out, post what you got to post, see what happens. You know, I mean, what's the worst that happens? I stay right where I'm at. Upside is infinite. So why not do it?
Hell yeah. No, for sure, man. What kind of progress have you seen from the content you're putting out?
Definitely. From last year to this year, I think from the last time we spoke, probably had like upwards towards mid to like 200s, 250 followers or so. Now I'm at low 500s, so almost a double in the follower count in terms of stuff like that. So that has been huge compared. I think I've been on social media for about 5 or 6 years now, and that was probably the biggest jump there. I'd also say compared to last year, a lot of people I interact with are actually more towards the things that I'm actually into. Before it was just, you know, my friends or whatever. So to see, you know, some of that progress, that's definitely there. With, you know, some of the content picking up, you know, you really start to see that a lot of the stuff, and I'm still in the infant stages, but I'm learning a lot of this is like, it's really like a business, man. Like you really have to be, you know, responding to your DMs, posting, you know, trying to help other people get on. Like you really have to be dedicated, you know, to something like this, especially if you're going to be in the content space. You know, there's so much stuff going on, and I think a lot of people who do create content, they tend to, from people I've talked to, sometimes they have an issue where they want people to see them, they want people to share them, interact with them, but it's kind of like they're living in this bubble and they can't show you some love, can't send you a comment, and it's just kind of like, what's going on here? I mean, it's fine, you do you, but to me, I don't understand how you could want a bunch of something, but not, you know, reciprocated at all. Like, you know, so that's definitely what I've learned as well. Because I think when I first started, I was just posting stuff. Then I was like, you know, there are people that I'm actually fans of, so why not drop them some comments, show them some likes, share them to my story, things like that, because it's not like I don't enjoy what they're producing. And I noticed once that I've internalized that type of philosophy, definitely have seen a lot of great progress. So yeah, just staying consistent, giving yourself as many opportunities. And, definitely whatever you do, I think what I've also noticed, a lot of people who are really blowing up in the content space, it's not only talking about whatever you do. I think a lot of what people want to see is like the behind the scenes stuff, like, hey, and I'm still trying to incorporate more and more of that. I just thought about that maybe in the last 6 months. I was like, let me start talking about the inspirations behind the songs and, how you make, how I came up with this part, what does this mean? And, that's just the start of it. I have a whole bunch of other things that, I'm trying to roll out, just have to figure out how to do it without having it be just a huge mess. But definitely, behind the scenes content, the more you can show like, hey, this is what you do on a day-to-day basis. Hey, this is how I came up with this. If you're making clothes, hey, listen, this is how I came up with this design, whatever it may be. With the world now, there's no need, in my opinion, to be trying to hide who you work with, because let's be real, you can figure that shit out if you really wanted to. So there's not really a way to like, oh, I'm gonna keep this tucked away, keep it secret, because I mean everything has a receipt nowadays. So not really a point in trying to keep anything secret, especially not with how things are now. There's tons of people in the content space, tons of people in every space that I've personally been in. I'm sure you've seen in all the spaces you've been in. If you are consistent, or you have a message, you have a story, you're interesting, or whatever, you're being vulnerable, people are going to gravitate towards that. And you don't have to worry about, how many people this person has rocking with them, or this group of people. Just, focus on being yourself, and, someone's gonna fuck with you, because how I look at that is, when I do anything I've ever done, someone else has always like been a fan of it. Like if I go to the bar, I've never been the only person at that bar. When I watch a video on YouTube, I'm not the only person that has liked it, subscribed to that person, or puts a view on that video. So when I look at it, or the grocery stores I go to, no matter what it is, if there's other people there, I know for a fact that other people like what I like. And if I like what I'm creating, there's going to be somebody out there that likes it. Because everything else I like, other people also like. Maybe more, maybe less, but hey, just be consistent, be yourself, and hey, you're definitely doing yourself a favor, trying to do everything, showing more and more of who you are. I think that's definitely super key, especially now. Having really good clothes, or really good music, or dope coaching programs, or whatever. That worked in the 2010s, but in 2020, that's in the 2020s, that's just not.
Yeah, no, you gotta show people who you are. Like you're talking about the behind the scenes stuff. It's important if you want to build a social media following to get people to connect with you as a person, rather than just your music or your art, or whatever it is that you're doing. They got to know who you are. Yes. And also, you're right. There's 8 billion people on this planet. There's 100,000 people who are looking for anyone's music. Guaranteed. Guaranteed.
Yeah. Someone's coaching program, somebody's hats, somebody's purses, whatever you're doing, there's somebody that's looking for that.
What do you think of the climate of social media right now?
I have a couple things. So for me, I think that some of the things I do like about it is, it's really quick, so it's easy to get yourself out there, and all it takes is one. You could post something. I've seen people post stuff. It's up there for 3 minutes, and they got hundreds of comments and views and shares and stuff like that. So I definitely think if you're consistent and you get people to vibe with you, it's awesome. I would say I think the downside to social media is with algorithms and everything being pushed so heavy. I've noticed that from like when I started doing social media in the late 2010s to now, it just seems like there's a lot of catering to an algorithm. It seems like people are not saying that they're afraid to be themselves, but it's almost like they're trying to ride a trend to get people to see them, which I think is a good idea. I'm not saying that's an awful idea, but I'm also like, if you ride trend. You think you can't, but not saying it's not possible. But I haven't, developed enough intelligence to this point yet to figure out, hey, if I go out here and ride a trend and do what I see other people blowing up doing, I don't know how I would take that and then convert it into who I am on a day-to-day basis, because I'm not a trend. I'm a human being. So I'm not saying it's not possible. I mean, because there are people that do that. But as of right now, I think there's a lot of, you see the same kind of trends coming out not over and over again, but when there's a trend, it takes off. You see a lot of people doing it. So I definitely would say I did like it a little bit more. I mean, I don't know if you remember like the old YouTubes and the old, people were just putting anything out, man.
Oh yeah.
Like there was no thumbnail, there was no fancy thumbnails, there were no hashtags. People were just being themselves, and and so I really, missed that part. So I definitely like, how much easier it is to find something, because I remember when YouTubes and the Instagrams and the Facebooks, when all those first came out, like you had to literally know down to the letter what you were looking for. And if you didn't, you just never saw it again, or you just never came across it again. Now you can just type in a hashtag, scroll for 20 seconds, like, oh, this is what I was looking at.
Yep.
So, or you can just save it now. So it's way easier to keep in line with whatever you want to keep in line with, but I also think that there are a little bit of setbacks when you see a lot of people just trying to jump on the trend. I would like to see more individuality personally, because like I said, I do kind of miss, I mean, I sound like a dinosaur now, but I do miss the, the YouTubes and the Instagrams and everything like that when they first came out. So pros and cons, I definitely think for what I see on social media, it seems like there's a lot of humiliation content, which I'm not really a fan of. It seems like there's a rumor. I see that a lot on my algorithm anyway. There's like a rumor or there's an argument. People are trying to get all these hot takes. And it's just like, those are cool, but at the same time, is it a hot take because you actually believe in this, or you're just like, hey, we're just gonna say this shit so people get mad. So, and I think that's why I think it's hard, I think, for, a lot of people to capitalize on certain things, because if you're just throwing out hot takes just so you can piss some people off or start an argument, like how long, I mean, I guess if you want to live that way, but how sustainable is that, just to keep saying, because I feel like at some point you're just going to keep saying more and more asinine shit, and then it's going to get to the point where you're just like, what are you even saying? Because I mean, I've already seen content creators that I've been a fan of over the years where they started off with some hot takes, oh, that's crazy, then it gets to a point you're just like, what is this guy saying? What is this lady talking about? You're just, because as people get more and more desensitized to your hot takes, you just got to make them hotter and hotter, to the point where you start contradicting yourself. And then once you get to that point, if you have a true following, you start to alienate those people, because it's like, hey, I was following you, I've been a fan of you for 5 years, and this is what you're talking about. Now you're completely going against everything that I started rocking with you for.
Yeah.
For who? For new people that don't really care about you? What about the 8,000, 4,500 people that have stuck with you and been a fan of all of your content? So to answer your question, I like both. I'd like both ends of it. I would just like to see more authenticity, more, people being themselves, less outlandish hot takes, unless it's something you actually believe in, then of course. But just to jump on a Jordan LeBron debate, or to, talk about a Trump Biden just to get clicks and views for no reason. If there's a reason behind it, like, yeah, I'm gonna get this attention, flip this attention towards my products, certainly. But just to keep doing it, I guess do you. But I'm not a super fan of that.
No, I feel that, bro. I feel that, man. And I mean, you had a term before we started the interview. Tell me about that term for people that kind of do things like that.
Oh, captivists. Yeah, those people. Yeah, we were talking about that. So I was thinking about, because when the whole, like, when it comes to politics, war, Diddy, whoever, it's just like, I'm just like, yeah, do you even really care about what you're saying, dude, or are you just blurting shit and just trying to get followers for no reason? Like, if there's a reason behind it, certainly, but I know there's a lot of people, like I said, if you're famous, then it doesn't really matter. Like, those people who have 3 million followers, even if the algorithm suppresses your video and only 1 out of every 100 of your followers get to it, that's still 300,000 people. If you have 300, that's not those people. But if you're trying to make it, and I see those people, I'm just like, yeah, you're, and like, especially if you know the person, you're just like, dude, you fucking,
you don't even believe what you just said, bro.
Yeah, so I definitely, those people, or like, the people who shame people for not talking about something, or not fighting for something, or not standing up for something, but then they don't stand up for it either. It just seems like, oh, you're just saying that because some people in your comment section told you to talk about that, but the people in your comment section were either a robot, or they don't really stand for anything. They're just talking about it because they heard it on the news or on Twitter. There's a trending hashtag, so now they're talking about it. So I've definitely noticed there's a lot of people like that, and I don't necessarily. I mean, I'm the person I'm trying to be in the brand I'm trying to build, who I'm trying to be internally and spiritually. I don't want to go on Instagrams or the Twitters, the TikToks, whatever, and start arguments because I'm generally not that kind of person. I personally just want everyone to succeed, everybody to be pushing love and positivity. That's my personal feeling. If you don't want to do that, I'm not God, I'm not Jesus, I'm not Allah, I'm not Yahweh, I'm not whoever somebody may or may not believe in. I'm none of those people. So I don't take my opinions and turn them into fact and law, because I don't really think that's a good way to be living. That's what I mean by a captivist, somebody who's just talking about things, or taking on hot takes or whatever, or jumping on someone else's hot take. But there is no actual belief or actual substance behind whatever they're saying. They're just talking to be talking in hopes to get 15 seconds of attention. I guess that's what they're trying to do. Not really sure, because when you see one of those people, you try to like look up about them, and you're like, you've never talked about this ever. So like, what is this really about? So those people, like I said, there's always those people where they talk about maybe something that is trending, but then if you look a little bit more into like content, or a little bit more into about getting to know about them, you're like, no, this person, they're valid. They've actually been on these type of topics for the last 5 years. So not you, but unfortunately, there is a population, I don't know how large it is, there's a population of people fucking up the people who are actually serious about something because they're just trying to jump on some trending topic. Those are the people I'm talking about in terms of captivists.
Speaking of things that you have a place to speak on, like, you, aside from music, are a hustler. You're in real estate, you got other side hustles going on. You're about the money, you're about taking care of business. You were saying earlier that before the interview that you had some opinions on the status of the economic state of this country.
Yes, and it wasn't really just the economic state of the country, which it was, but it was more about like, some of the political narratives that I see getting pushed over the years. When I see somebody tweet something, or somebody make a video about something where they say like, oh, we should, how I say it, like, we should, why do athletes, for example, why do professional athletes get all this money for throwing a football, shooting a basketball? Why does Elon Musk, why does Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, whoever, why do they make so much money while there's like homeless people in the street and stuff like that? And I get that, I'm not sitting there saying like, oh, everything we have is perfect. Not at all. However, I do think that sometimes we as people, especially the ones who don't study economics, I mean, with me putting money into the market, being in real estate, and everything like that, I would be foolish to not be looking at the economy, because a lot of it literally depends on that kind of shit. And even when I'm not doing that, I work on tip-based services, stuff like that. So I have to be up on that kind of shit. Even if it's like just like reading it 5, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour a week, like at all times, at some point, I have to just see a little bit about what's going on in certain sectors and in the economy as a whole. So, it's like, I don't know, like I talked to people, don't want to mention any names here, but, they were talking about like, it's crazy how there's people like the rich people, the Bezos, the Musks, the super professional athletes, everything like that. And then there's like people who can't work, who are, let's say, single mothers with 3 kids, and they can't find a job, but they're not able to make a living wage. And I'm like, yeah, that really sucks. And when I think about those kind of things, it's like, okay, how do you fix that? How can we help those type of people become a better asset to whatever market, whatever economy they're in? But that anytime I try to bring that up, maybe I'm just a terrible communicator. That turns into, no, just take the money from Jeff Bezos because he's a billionaire. He shouldn't have all that money. And then, when people say those kind of things, I start to look around at like whatever setting we're in, especially if we're in their house. And I've had that conversation in the past where someone said we should just take all the money from Jeff Bezos and that would fix problems. I was like, I don't really know how, but okay. I guess you have your opinion. But it was funny because when he said that, he had an Amazon Prime account. He had a Fire Stick. And we were watching a movie on Amazon Music. So when he was saying that he shouldn't have all this money, I was like, but you're the reason why he has all this money. Because you are buying his products. Now, yeah, stockholders may be giving him money, but the people who are shareholders in his company are only giving Amazon or any company that he owns money because they look around and say, wow, there's a lot of consumers buying his shit or shit that he's a part of. Let him take my money and invest it in his infrastructure because clearly he knows what he's doing. So there was that. And then when people talk about like raising minimum wages, I definitely think that we could do better as a country with those things. But at the same time, I think we have to really think about all these things in like a 360 type of view. I almost feel like we're in a room with 360 walls. And it's like you see 2 walls and you're like, the room is green. And it's like, no, those 4 or 5 walls you see are green. But the other 354, 55, they're different colors. But you never turned around and did a 360. And a lot of time I think that comes from the sensationalization of like the news and how everything becomes so politicized and everybody's just headline this, headline that. But nobody really wants to actually educate themselves. Because I mean, as a person who does that shit, sometimes it is a lot, like you have to get through, after you get through all the nonsense and all the bullshit, that's when you get to the actual statistics, the actual data, and then you can actually interpret the data and see, okay, this is how things are, So like I was talking to my wife about this. She's not necessarily against it, but I was reading this book. I was listening to this audio book. It was called it's called Basic Economics, the 5th edition. It was by Thomas Sowell. I think he's a professor at Stanford. He studies economics and everything, and the book breaks down things beautifully. But I remember we were having this conversation. It was about professional athletes. And I remember way back in high school, there was a discussion about why professional athletes should not get paid. Now, I don't know if I was just being a dickhead just to be different at the time. Don't really know why I did it at 16, but the class had to pick sides. And it was like, I think it was me and one other kid, but the dude that was on my side, he was mad nice at sports. So I think that he thought he had, I don't think he ever did, but he was an exceptional athlete. So I think maybe he thought like, yeah, maybe I can make it pro. So for the rest of the class on the other side, like they shouldn't make that much. And at the time, I didn't have as a sophisticated argument as I do now. But at the time, I knew what I was trying to say, but I just wasn't smart enough or educated enough to really articulate it. But I pretty much at the time said, hey, well, they sell jerseys and they sell tickets and stuff, and that's why they make so much money. But now that I'm older and I start to like really study economics, and I think of a professional athlete, like when they say like how is this man or how is this woman getting paid? Well, it's mostly men because women athletes, for whatever reason, don't get as much. Yeah. But for like a male athlete, let's say you're talking about the NFL, you're like, oh, this guy's making $20 million a year, $30 million just throwing football, and I'm like, well, yeah. When you reduce it to that, yeah, it doesn't make sense. But when I look at it from the standpoint of breaking everything down, like, okay, a star athlete on a football team, let's say, just use football as an example. People are going to come to that game just to see that person. So let's say the capacity of the stadium is 20,000 people. 7,000 people are buying a ticket just to see that person play. That ticket, however you do that, whether you're generating a QR code or you're printing tickets, somebody's getting paid off of that. Somebody has to create those tickets. So you need ink for that. You need the paper for that. Or if you're generating the QR codes, you need a computer program or whatever you're using. Somebody, that's a job, that's a business, that's a career for somebody. All right. Oh, well, there's tailgating. All right. What do people do at tailgates? They drink beer, so they have to buy it. The beer companies are seeing money all because somebody wants to see this professional athlete. People grill there. All right, to get to grill, you need a grill itself. Hey, go get a grill. So somebody's making those grills. Somebody's gonna see some type of economic benefit from purchasing that. Whether you're using charcoal, gas, or any other substance to light your grill, that's something right there in itself. Then the parking. Well, you need a car to get there. And for a car, you have to have gas and shit. So if you have to go get gas before you go to the game, if the game's an hour away, you just paid somebody's gas station to get gas from their gas station to get to the game. You got to pay for parking. There's a facility, the stadium. There's concession stands in there. Power. Those are jobs right there. You have to keep everything in the facilities clean. There's another set of jobs right there. You got to keep the maintenance of the building up. Those are jobs right there. And all of this to keep a venue in good shape so you can see star athletes perform. So, yeah, I get it. They don't necessarily throwing the football or catching the football or kicking football, whatever. Yeah, I've seen you're like, wow, they're making that much money for that. But it's like, yeah, but because there's such a demand for that, that's where that goes. So when we sit here and say, why do singers and why do athletes make so much? I mean, on the way there, hey, there's a concert that's an hour away. Who's coming? Oh, it's Kanye West. Wow, that's a lot of people are going to come here. All right, every restaurant in the vicinity of that venue, some people are going to eat at that person's restaurant because it's like, hey, there's a lot of people here. We need food before we go in because if there is food there, if that's even a thing at the concert, that's probably going to be expensive as shit. So let's eat before we get there. So there's going to be plenty of local restaurants, even major corporate restaurants. People are going to come in and dine in or take out or whatever before they go to this concert.
Yep.
So the economic ripple effect of a superstar is why I think they get paid so much. It's because they generate so much business and so much economic opportunity for so many other people.
That's an interesting take on it, though, for real.
And I think, yeah, I kind of got some of this stuff from that Basic Economics book by Thomas Sowell. So I read the audiobook. There's actually the actual textbook. It was in a PDF. I didn't look at the PDF yet, but it actually talks about a lot of things. And I think we as citizens, because everything's so politicized and everything like that, nobody's going to really take the time. If you're just an average person just working at Target and you're just working at Target, going to the gym, playing video games, going to the bar on some weekends, if that's what you're doing, you probably aren't the average. I don't think the average person is really studying economics.
Right.
I mean, I'm not even super into that, but I study it for obvious reasons. And I'm still like, man, this is a lot. Now, when you just look at it, economics on a basic level, and you start to understand things, how things will operate. Excuse me. Then you understand. You have a better understanding. I'm not saying you have a better understanding of why certain things might be the way they are. And so when I hear people say, "Oh, we should just get rid of this government and like go to another, type of government, whether that's socialism, communism, whatever," and they say it's going to be better, everyone has their own opinion. But I mean, last time I checked, I'm not saying this 100% true, but last time I checked, I still see people from all over the world move here. I mean, of course, people move out. I'm not saying that only people are moving here, and I'm not saying that in 2024 this is the most people ever moved. I'm not saying anything like that. But people are moving from those kinds of countries to here. So if everything over there was so great, why are people still coming here? I'm not saying any way is right or wrong. I'm just looking at it like, well, and then when I say that, and then when I think about that, I ask people, okay, so you're telling me there's no billionaires in communist countries? There's no millionaires and billionaires in socialist countries? So if we go to a different country, everybody's just going to be cooling? Like there's going to be no problems? Everyone's good? So I'm just like I said, I just look at it like, but like I said, I don't think anyone's going to really, I don't have world economic data. I don't. Maybe you do, but right. I don't have world economic data. All I can do is think about what I do on a day-to-day basis, try to educate myself the best of my ability with any free time or any time I have to, make things work. So I think when we try to like tear down or try to force economic things, I think our best bet personally is to just try to make ourselves as valuable of an asset to the market as we possibly can. Because when I think about, a politician should do something, I mean, I don't know how it is. You're in Alabama, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it's like in Alabama. I've never been to that state. I've been to plenty of other states. And I live in West Virginia right now. I moved back here again. There's things that the government owns right now, and I'm like, dude, they can't even handle that shit. How are they gonna possibly handle the entire market every day and all the time? I just don't know how they would adequately do that. I feel like it's just looking at America. There's 328 million people here. How are you going to coordinate a system for that many people? Like, I just don't. Obviously, you can say, well, we have mayors and stuff like that. Yeah, but the mayor doesn't know you.
Yeah.
And if they do, like, okay, that's great, but the mayor doesn't know the average citizen, because it's not possible. If a mayor you're the mayor of Baltimore. Baltimore, I think, has like 600,000 people. How the hell is the mayor going to know 600,000 people and know exactly how to? That's like, I don't know how you would do that. Like me personally, I'm a vegan, all right? So I don't eat meat and all that stuff. So if you have me in your county and there's, and 10%, let's say 10% of your county is like me, and then you have X amount of people who are butchers and stuff like that, how in the world are you going to satisfy both of us and not piss us off at all? Because everything you do for them, I'm going to be upset. I'm like, well, that's not benefiting me. But if you do a bunch of stuff for me, that's not benefiting them. So at some point, I feel like to get an equilibrium, I think that the market and all the individuals in the market, acting in the market, just have to figure out how to become the best assets as possible they can to that economy. Because I know everything that we're doing now. If I'm going off on a tangent, just let me know. I'm trying to illustrate this point, but sometimes I be going all over the place.
You could.
So when, like I look at it, and the reason why I'm saying I think we need to be the best asset that we can be to the market or to the economy that we live in, is because, I mean, the economy and all that stuff, all this shit is new in comparison to human history. All this shit is fucking new. If you go back 40,000 years ago, people were running away from fucking tigers and shit. Like, we didn't have houses. I mean, they may have had huts or whatever, but all these houses and all these political things that we made all this shit up in the last 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, there's 90% more diseases today than there were in 1920, but there's also 90% of the food you find in grocery stores didn't exist.
Yeah. So I think that's a great point right there. So when I think about everything, I always try to go back and say, well, what would we do if this was 45,000 years ago? Hey, I have a village. I'm part of the village. They need me to go hunt animals. It's in my best interest and everybody's interest for me to be as strong as possible, as fast as possible, and be as trained as possible. So if I have to go out here and hunt and chase down something or pick berries or whatever I have to do, I'm the best asset I could be for the village. So myself and everyone in my village can be better off. And I don't know how a politician is going to make anybody. A politician can't give somebody effort. A politician can't make somebody want to read a book or, educate themselves. They can't make somebody want to do a trade. That has to be something internal. Yes, you can create incentives, but I mean, you can take steroids, but you still have to lift the weights. You can't just take steroids and play video games. So
love that comparison, bro.
So I think, so you can try to, say, hey, the politicians can do this, and this, but I just don't, I just think at some point we as a population have to say, hey, we have to do better. Because yes, your politicians, your leaders can help, but like we just said, there's 328 million people. How in the world can 10,000, even if there was 1 million people, how could they adequately, that's just not feasible, So I think it's in our best interest, internally, within our families, within our communities, however broad of a spectrum you want to put somebody in, it's just best to be the best asset that you could possibly be. If you see things are going towards AI and you're thinking, hey, creative thinking and coding and all that kind of stuff is where I need to go, then you should go that way, I mean, if you're like, hey, the berries and the buffalo, everything is moving east. All right, well, we have to go that way because we need that for subsistence of life. We're not going to just stand here and be like, oh, all the fruit and all the vegetables and everything's disappearing, and I'm just stand here. No, you would probably go towards where the shit is going. So I think that's probably our best bet. So when it comes to people being upset about any type of economic situation, obviously the general public is the general public, but no single individual is the general public. So if somebody is starving, I don't have to starve. If somebody, if they're like, hey, there's 20% of this community is committing crimes, that doesn't mean, oh, well, I might as well start doing that too. Just because there's a trend or something like that, that doesn't mean I have to individually follow that trend. I can still make decisions for myself. Now, obviously, within reason, right? I can't just say, oh, I'm going to go hop on my jumbo jet because I don't have one, of course. But
if your friends are jumping off a cliff, are you going to jump too?
Yeah. So I think that's how I look at all those things. So instead of us, lobbying or saying, hey, we got to make our politicians do this, and this, I think our best bet is to just educate ourselves, figure out where the trends are going in terms of jobs, in terms of businesses, in terms of creative thinking, AI, whatever you want to talk about, learn that, try to figure out how you can insert yourself to be the best you can be. I don't have children, but if I did have a child, I wouldn't look at my child and say, oh, they're hungry. I'm gonna write a letter to my councilman. I would probably say, hey, I have to figure out a way to feed this child. If me and my wife want to go like that, maybe I'm being insensitive, maybe I'm being a dickhead, but that's just how I would look at it. So that's what. I had a whole bunch of other things, but I wasn't gonna say everything on your bullet for bullet. That's crazy. I just had this just in case I needed it. But once I started talking, I was like, rehearsed shit is just, it's not as cool.
Yeah. Hey, bro, this ain't a hot take. It's a West Side take, bro. What? No, for sure, man. And I had some other political questions I was going to ask you, but I do kind of want to change tracks real quick, though. And I want to know what you think about the streaming platforms right now.
Streaming platforms. I think that they're great. I think so. Actually, I have some stuff here. I was actually going to talk about the music industry for everybody as a whole, but when people talk about streaming, or like Spotify, Apple Music, whatever, they ruin the game, and everyone's making formulaic music and stuff like that. I feel where they're coming from. I think when it comes to, but that's a different story. You asked about streaming platforms specifically. So when it comes to streaming platforms, if you ask me my honest opinion, I think that it's becoming not critical mass. I don't say it's getting to that point where there's so much. Yeah, I think there we go. There was so much opportunity in streaming. I think when I was younger, like what I want to say, I remember, before, like, you had your LimeWires, your FrostWires, but back then, I remember when maybe Napster was already a thing, but I was a little kid when, like, you still had to, like, go on AOL dial-up, and you couldn't be on the internet if somebody was on the phone.
Yep.
So back in those days, there was Napster. That was the only, like,
taking 24 hours to download a song, bro.
Yeah. That was like that was the first one I've ever came across. Then a few years went by, and there was a couple of them that came out. And then at some point, I don't know if it was because of mixtapes, I don't know what it is, but at some point, streaming became really popular. And people saw it as being very lucrative because there was no physical distribution needed. You're just, hey, just upload this up to a cloud and let people just stream straight from the cloud onto their phone, stuff like that. So I think there was a lot of, opportunity. Then obviously, like anything, when the opportunity shows up, a lot of people flock to it. And then it started to, find an equilibrium. And then at some point, people were finding out how much money these streaming platforms were making, and then how much of that was coming or going towards the people who were actually making the streaming platform valuable. So I know recently, I think it was the beginning of this year, Spotify said they were going to stop paying people if they make less than like 100,000 streams or 1,000 streams, whatever the number was, and stuff like that. So, I think due to the level of greed that a lot of these streaming platforms are putting out, or displaying, a lot of the greed that they're displaying, because I mean, I understand it. They have to make their money, but at the same time, you're charging someone $20 a month for some shit, and that's great, because I remember when you had to pay $20 for a CD for 13 songs, and you better hope those fucking 13 songs are amazing. But and then you find out that of all of their pie, you're like, wow, only 3% are going to the people who are actually bringing people
less than that.
Yeah. So I think now I know in these last, I wouldn't say in the last like 12 to 16 months, I've been seeing a lot from like Askew, even those platforms. Actually, I think I learned about Askew through one of your posts like 6 or 7 months ago. I actually got to start using that more. That's one of those things I got to work on. I definitely need to have more confidence in myself, because I think I'm decent. Like, I don't think I'm the greatest, whatever, but I think I'm pretty decent. But I just always get cold feet when I'm just like, damn, am I really gonna ask someone to pay me for this? Like, and I don't know if I feel that way because I have other sources of income. So I'm not like, oh my god, like I need this mixtape to blow up. Like, I don't look at it like that. At the same time, yes, I should be pushing towards trying to monetize it. So I actually did set up my profile for all that stuff. But with all that being said, I definitely think that Askew, even in all those kind of platforms, I think those are going to start to, in the next few years, I think a direct to consumer model is going to either, I don't want to say wipe out the Spotify's and the Apple Musics and stuff like that, But I definitely think it's going to pressure them to either just say, you know what, fuck that, shut that shit down, or they're going to have to be say, hey, listen, we're going to have to start paying more people more than 0.003 cents per stream. Like we can't be doing that.
They caught us. We gotta give it up.
So I think with the direct-to-consumer streaming platforms, I definitely think that's going to definitely help, you know, people who are putting things on there, for sure. Just because, you know, I mean, that, but I think that's, you know, that's why I believe in the free market, because when you have something, there's always going to be somebody say, you know, that's bullshit. I'm going to do something about that. And people are doing stuff about it. And, you know, so I definitely think that I do like where the streaming platforms are going. And, you know, I do need to, you know, get more confidence in my product. Like I said, I don't know if I feel that way because, you know, I do the stock markets and I'm in the real estate. I have my own, you know, I buy commodities. So I collect a lot of things that I'm hoping will only appreciate in value. So I'm just like, I still look at it like I still want to get really good at it, but I think look at it as just a hobby that I just happen to put a lot of time into and just happen to get pretty good at. That's kind of where I have it. I haven't flipped that switch to be like, you know what, man, no, somebody would pay for it. Even though I'm like, I objectively know that somebody would pay for it if I was like, hey, you want to, I have a 6-track project here, $3, whatever. I'm pretty sure somebody would pay for it. Like I said, I just haven't, I don't know if it's a confidence thing. I don't know if it's because I'm not desperate for it. I don't know. I can't give you the exact reason on why. I just haven't like really been pushing like the Muse IQs and the evens on my end, which I should be doing. I'm not saying I shouldn't be. So I definitely think the streaming platforms are great for, you know, getting, you know, noticed and stuff like that. I think Muse IQ and even anyone that's doing those kind of things, definitely think those are going to be the future, the direct-to-consumer model, especially as more and more people move that way. Now, I don't know about the super artists like the SZAs, the Drakes, the Kendricks. I don't know if they're going to ever do it, but if they're like if they're on that cusp of like, hey, I could get signed, or I could just keep doing this myself and just sell my music straight to the person. Now, once those artists make that switch and enough of them are saying, hey, you know, I'm not doing that, I'm going to do this instead, you'll have your early adopters, which I think we're in that stage right now. And then you'll have your early majority, then you'll have the late majority, then you'll just have to say, hey, listen, this is how we do things. You can't even really find anything on Spotify unless you're signed to Universal Music or something. If you're not,
yep,
it's not there. So yeah, but thinking about, you know, streaming platforms and everything like that, I think you'll understand this because I know you're like, what, 35, 36, right?
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, so you'll definitely know exactly what I'm talking about. I think when it comes to music, I think the thing with people now is what we're talking about earlier, which is a part of it, where people are trying to ride trends and trying to be trendy. I think that because there's been so many songs and that have sonically sounded a certain way, I think people are just trying to chase that sound. Now, me personally, I'm just like, hey, listen, I like it sounding like this. And the reason why I do that is because, yes, I can go to somebody, which I've worked with an engineer before, but I can go to somebody and say, hey, make me sound just like Travis Scott or Drake or Kendrick. And I could definitely do that, even though Kendrick doesn't really sound like, you know, a lot of those, that sound that's really popular. I can go for that, but then it's like, yeah, I can sit here and say, oh, I'm going to get more likes and more shares or whatever because it's easier on the ears, quote unquote, because it's not like, that's different. It's just kind of like, oh, yeah, that's just like every other. That's like the same song I've listened to for the last 3 years. Yeah, but at the same time, I think, how do you create a fan base like that when You sound like everybody else. I'm like, if I sit here and say, hey, I got brown paper bags, and then there's 800 people with brown paper bags, oh, the same ones they have. Yeah, no, they're nothing. There's no brand name on it. They're not water resistant. It's the same thing you can get in any corner. Well, it's like, well, I guess if I'm here, I'll buy it. But if I need a brown paper bag and I'm 6 blocks away, I'm just going to get the paper bag from them. Why would I walk 6 blocks back to come to you? So to me, I'm like, listen, I'm a sacrifice trying to be trendy just to be myself. Now obviously with the mainstream artists, once you sign a deal, that's all debt that you have to pay back. So obviously you have to do whatever you have to do. And I think that's why a lot of times we hear the people say like, oh, everyone sounds the same, which is not true. But I think the difference is because there's so many artists, it's so much more it's easier on the artist side to get in. I remember because when I was a kid, my uncle used to do music. He had like this huge ass board and like all this shit. And I was like, and I remember he used to beat my ass because I used to fuck with all the knobs up.
That's the worst, bro.
Well, but at the time I didn't know. I was just like, oh, buttons, yay, right? But that's how it was. And then, once, the digital era where it's just like, hey, you just buy a laptop and download a program.
USB interface and a $100 mic and you good. You got everything you need.
Yeah, so I think so the barrier to entry is lower. So there's a lot more, artists that you can have access to. But I think the difference on why so many people sound the same now, or we think that, is because music is an art form that, you consume by yourself, of course. But I think there's also a sense of community. And if I sat here and said, yeah, I spent 3 weeks finding these 5 artists that have less than 2,000 listeners a month on Spotify, but they're all fire. But I go try to play them at a function, and they're like, "Who is this? We can't party to this. There's no. What are we all gonna chant and scream in unison? We don't know this person."
Yep.
So I think because of that, people just stick to the mainstream music, and I think another reason why a lot of people feel that. So I think that's one of the reasons why people feel everyone sounds the same. Because at this point, to find different sounding artists, you have to either look for them or do something like you, where you're like, oh yeah, I work with different people. I try to interview people, stuff like that. But again, that's still you physically going and taking your time and being like, okay, I want to find new people to give a spotlight to or give a platform for. So it's just kind of like, if you're not in one of those, if you're not in that group of I actively look for shit, you're just gonna click on hot new hits of the week, and it's gonna be the same 200 artists that are on the major labels just cycle through, and then it kind of goes from there. I think the reason why a lot of artists sound the same and why people are like, oh, they're just recycling the same material is because, with people investing their money, they want their money back as soon as possible. And, with all of these streaming platforms, they're like, hey, listen, just get as many streams as possible so you can get more favorable algorithm push, and then you'll get more streams because more people, you'll show up in more people's algorithms. So I definitely think that the artists are afraid to tell the major labels no, we're not doing that. I am the product. Yeah, you might be able to help me distribute the product at a way faster efficiency and a much cheaper rate than I could possibly do if I was going to operate on the same scale as you. But no, I'm not going to do that. But sadly, a lot of people who end up signing, they are usually not in the best economic spaces or economic places in their life. So they're just like, fuck it, I'll do it. And they're just like, hey, whatever, I'm trying to make some money to, feed XYZ people, and they probably also want some material stuff too, or whatever. Or they might just say, hey, listen, I'm gonna take on that debt, call it a deal, and then capitalize on it, turn to something else. Whatever the point may be, if there's no integrity in terms of I'll just say and do whatever, that's one thing. And I think another reason why there's so many artists and so much of the music, quote unquote, sounds the same, unless you go sleuthing around for those, those unique artists, is I think when we were growing up, I remember I'm trying to think when they're okay, Marshall Mathers LP Gear to Die Trying. Like, I remember actually like buying those CDs and like, oh my God, my mom got me this. This is so awesome. And at that time, like I had the CD, I had to get the CD player. You know, they used to call them Walkman, and like you used to like put the CD in and you would play. And you know, and if there was 12 songs, 14 songs, 15 songs, that's all there was. So I think because of that, back in the day, you had to make somebody want to go to a store, wait in a line, and purchase a product. So if you sounded so 50 Cent sounded just like Eminem, why would I go buy 50 Cent's album?
That's a really good point.
It sounds just like Eminem's. But now I could just throw a whole bunch of, if I wanted to, I could take every song on my computer right now and just throw it in regardless of how shitty it sounds, how unpolished it is, it wouldn't matter, because it's like, I mean, I pay a portal, $20 a year, whatever, to distribute as much music I want to all the platforms. So if I wanted to sit here and say, I'm flooding the market, I'm every song I ever made, I'm releasing it. Fuck it. I could do that now. Obviously, I wouldn't do that because that's stupid as fuck. But you could do that, and that would just be the end of it. It would just be like, that was 400 new songs just added to this giant cloud of electrons and computer chip in some place, and now if you want to go listen to it, it's there. But back then it was like, okay, I gotta buy this album, and because you know it was a physical product and you needed to sell it, you needed to have like, okay, even if I'm a gangster rapper, I gotta make some love songs. I gotta put some love songs on.
Yep.
You know, I gotta talk about if I have a financial problem, I got to talk about that. So that way, when somebody puts that CD in, it's 14 tracks. It's like, hey, all 14 of your songs have to win a certain amount of people over. Each track has to win a certain amount of people over, so people will tell other people about it. Because, you know, when I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, they didn't have commercials for CDs. The only way you knew that shit is if you went to, if you went to FYE or something like that, yep, and you went in the store and you're like, oh, who is this? You click the little sample button, put the headphones, you're like, oh, this is awesome. I'm going to go take this, walk up to the register, yep, purchase this. You play it and be like, yo, friends, this shit is fire, bro. Tell your mom, your dad, tell somebody to get you this, man. This shit is crazy. Like,
yeah.
So they had to sound like themselves, but now, you don't have to do that. And I think because so many artists just conform to just, hey, let me just throw out as many songs. Who cares if they sound the same? I'm just trying to get as many streams as possible. So my music is algorithm friendly. That's why we have, people dropping projects every 2 weeks, 2 months, because if it doesn't do well, or if it's like, hey, whatever, we don't need to sell 500,000 CDs of this. It just won't get that many streams. Now, obviously, if you sign to a label, that's a label conversation the artist has to have with, their managers and shit like that. But to the listener, if I click on something right now, I'm like, this project sucks, man. I can't believe I just spent. But that's fine, because all I did was, if I subscribe to Apple Music already, I'm already paying that. Your stuff was already on there. I clicked through it, listened through a few songs, and now this isn't for me.
Right.
That's it. I didn't have to go out there and spend. Now, if it was like, hey, this new project just came out, it has 12 songs, it's $12. All right, if I buy this,
it better be fucking fire.
Because if it's not, I want something else, I got to spend another $12. Right?
Yep.
So I think that's why we think the quality of music has gone down, because the accessibility on both ends, whether if you want to be an artist or if you're a consumer, hey, it doesn't matter if me, the listener, doesn't have to do a lot to get the product. Like I said before, I remember I used to have to drive to the mall, but I'd have to convince my mom. I'd be like, Mom, please take me to the mall. Okay, once I got past that hurdle, then I was like, all right, now I gotta hope that this is a decent price and my mom will buy it for me.
And she'll buy me the one with the explicit lyric symbol on it.
Yeah. So then after you got through that hurdle, then it was like, okay, now I need her to buy it. All right, she bought it. All right, now I gotta make sure I got the batteries for my CD player. I got to make sure that's. So you had to put so much investment into whatever project you bought that you like. It had to be good.
Yeah.
So I think that the consumer integrity was a lot higher because it was like I didn't just drive 30 minutes to the mall, wait 5 minutes in line, and drive back and do all this to get some bullshit. Like this has to be amazing because I mean I don't know how long. I may not get my mom to buy me another CD for 3 months. So 6 months, whatever. So
this guy hold me over. This guy.
Yes, these songs have to be amazing. I'm gonna play these shits every day for the next
on repeat, bro. Yeah.
So I think that's why the quality of music has gone down.
That's true.
Because it's so much easier for the consumer to get it. So now I think because it's easier, the bar that the consumer holds the artist to is a lot lower because there's so much less of an investment.
I never thought of it like that. Like that's 100% true. I mean, you used to have a unique sound and now you don't because of the ease of access to it. That's a really interesting take for real.
Yeah, and I mean, I was just thinking about it and I was like, fuck it. What if they, obviously, the digital agency, I'm not saying we go back to just only having to go to the malls to get your music or to the CD stores or the Blockbusters or wherever you used to get your CDs. That's not, I'm not saying we should go back to that. But I would say like, maybe you put like a cap. And I'm not saying that we actually do this because I see the downsides to that because that's like, well, dude, because like I just said, like, let the market figure the market out. So yeah, I'm not saying we do this, but what I try to do for myself is because, like, yeah, you know, at this point, I'm literally looking at my closet that I record in with all my studio equipment. I could literally just take one day and say, you know what, I'm gonna cancel any meetings I got, and I'm just gonna for the next 2 days, and I'm just gonna record as many songs as possible. Then next week, I'm gonna take another 2 or 3 days and try to and mix as many as possible and do that process for the next 3 weeks, and then I'm gonna release 30 songs, 40 songs, however many songs that yields in that time. But I don't because one, I'm like, well, I don't think you're taking your craft serious because if you're trying to put your best work, you wouldn't just be throwing these things together. You know, if I went to a restaurant and I saw the cook and they were just throwing this shit on, I'm like, well, see, you're not even really cooking that shit for real. Like, do I really even want to eat that shit?
Right.
Nah, bro, you didn't check to see if that was cooked or not. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, squad. I don't think we should eat here. They don't look like they really give a fuck about what they're doing. That server did not listen to anything we said. We're about to get paid. So I think because of that, as a consumer, when I look at my music as a consumer, I'm like, see, you know that you didn't do your best in this, so don't release that. So I wouldn't say do this, but I would say maybe we create like an incentive, if you want, so to speak, where I guess, and I don't know the logistics of it, but it would just be like an idea of, all right, hey, listen, everybody has, because everyone has metadata, so everyone has that. There's like a tag, like when I upload stuff, like there's like some type of tag, I think they call it metadata or whatever. So when that's the case, if someone says, all right, hey, this meta tag or metadata, whatever you want to call it, this belongs to the West Side. All right, he has an allowance of 20 tracks per year. He can only upload 20 songs in a year. That's it. Once it gets to 20, it's like, hey, you have no more credits, bro. You gotta wait till January 1st to get more credits. I think that we would see, I would guess that would lead to a much higher quality of music because, I mean, I'm not trying to disrespect anybody. I mean, this guy's famous. He doesn't fucking know who I am. But, like, I was looking at NBA Youngboy. Like, it was a little while ago. And I was looking at his project list. And, like, when they were coming out, he dropped, like, 17 songs. And then, like, 2 weeks later, dropped, like, another 15. I'm like, bro, what the fuck? Now, work ethic, or that's great. I'm not sitting here saying, like, oh, how dare you do that? But it's just kind of like, dude, there's no way in hell in 1 month. That's more than a song a day. You're sitting here telling me you put your absolute best in that song. 34 times or 32
Your
times.
soul anywhere in that music, bro.
And like, yeah, I can see you say, oh, well, you can talk about it. And I'm not saying you can't talk about a passionate topic, but I'm just also like, well, how many times can you spin that topic and use how many before it's just like, yo, I know exactly what you're going to say.
Right. Well, I mean, my biggest complaint on most mainstream rappers is most of what they rap about is how great they are at rapping. And I'd really like for you to prove that rather than you just keep telling me about how great you are at rapping.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you know, like just, you know, because like, I mean, when I'm, and that's the thing, like when I do cover songs, that's just like how I'm just going to brag because that's just, you know, but when I'm trying to make a project, I'm like, okay. What's going to be the concept of the project?
Right. Or what am I passionate about right now? Yeah.
Okay. Are these beats going to fit the concept that we're putting here? Now, like I said, I think if there was a way to cap the amount of music that gets put out, like I said, if it's just like, hey, you have 20 credits, that's it.
Yeah. No, I like that idea.
Once you too bad. Oh, your project flopped. Sorry, you threw out all 20 songs on this project. You didn't take your time. Well, guess what?
Wait.
Next year, maybe.
Clock starts right now.
Use the next 8 to 10 months or whatever to do better next time.
Hone some shit in. For real. For real.
I think that would help. You know, I think that would bring back a lot of listener integrity. Because obviously, I think a lot of the times these artists are doing that is because they're like, well, fuck it, they're gonna listen to it anyway.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I got the name NBA YoungBoy. I got the name. They're gonna stream it. There's no doubt.
Yeah. So I think if you know that was the case, I think that would force everybody to get better. So that's why I think why the mainstream side of things has, you know, turned into what it has. It's just because it's like, and it's like everyone's trying to get that 10, 12 second like lightning in a bottle moment so they can make a bunch of reels and a bunch of TikToks and hope that, you know, and don't get me wrong, like if that happens, I would love for that to happen. But, you know, when I'm making songs, not like, oh man, you know what? This 6 seconds right here would be perfect for it. You know, that's not, you know, what I'm really, you know, going for. Now, if you are, hey, do you, but I think consumers know that artists know that that's what the artists are doing. Like, I think everybody's kind of like, we all know what's going on here.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not really trying to make a song. You're just trying to
get streams.
You're just trying to get streams and hope that when I make my next TikTok or my next reel, I use your song. That's all this is.
Yep.
You don't really give a fuck about what you're saying, and
Absolutely.
you know that I'm not going to give a fuck because the way it sounds is going to be perfect for them.
This vibe.
Hey, yeah, you know, this is going to be great when I saw everyone slicing my carrots. Yeah, that's what this is about.
Exactly,
so,
bro. Exactly.
I think if, you know, artists started to put more integrity in their music, I think then there we go. And then I think then the consumer would start holding that person to a higher standard because it'd be like, you know, because like I think about, you know, like when like a Kendrick Lamar or a J. Cole or something like that releases, it's like a big deal because it's not like, oh, you know, Kendrick is not releasing a project every month. So, because if he was, I'll just be like, dude, like whatever.
Yeah.
Who cares if I miss this one? You're gonna drop another one. Next month.
That's the way the greats do it. You know, Eminem did it. Dr. Dre did it. They take forever between albums because they're cooking, bro. They might have made 120, 100, 200 songs in between that, but they just put their 20 out. Yeah.
And, you know, I think like that's where like you have to, and I think that's where like the fine line is. It's like, you know, put out the good music, but don't limit yourself to like, I'm only going to put out 4 songs a year. I don't think that's a good way to move. And now if you're signed, then you could do that. But as an independent artist, I would just say, hey, listen, if you put out stuff consistently and you're like, hey, like I really, you know, because like one of the concepts that I think I'm going to try to incorporate is like, you know, hey, I'm going to take like 4 months and just try to like make like 15 really good songs, right? And then release all those at one time, like all of them like 2 weeks. And then just say, hey, okay, listen, just promote the shit out of these, do whatever, and then 6 months go by and do that again. So it's not like, oh, yo, he's not doing shit, but it's more just like, I'm gonna take a lot of time, or you take a lot of time to create those songs and then you just, release them periodically, but I just don't see the point, in somebody releasing 10 tracks and then 2 weeks later dropping another 15. Like, that makes no sense.
For sure, man. Now, I have been trying to keep these to like 60 to 90 minutes. So I want to ask you one more question, and it's kind of like the culmination of everything you talked about. And it's a unique aspect, perspective that you take on music that most people don't. As an artist who is not doing this for fame or for money, what is music to you? Why do you make music?
Great question. So the reason why I like to make music is it's to help me gain as much access as I can possibly get to my subconscious. Because obviously they call it your subconscious, so you can't really tell what it is. But I also think about it like, hey, let me go into this booth here. I'm not even gonna write anything. I'm just gonna freestyle here. And I'm going to take that beat and I'm going to loop it 5 times. And I'm just going to do 5 freestyles. I don't care if I trip up on my words or whatever. I just want to know what kind of feeling when I play this back, what kind of mood am I in? If I'm talking really like, if I'm cursing a lot and it's like, I'm talking real deep and angry, I'm like, man, I must be mad at something. So let me take inventory of my life. Why am I so upset? Or if I'm like talking about some stuff and I'm just talking about a bunch of sad shit, it's like, yeah, what am I dissatisfied about in my life? I gotta figure this out now. So let me be more vigilant on what's going on. Or if I'm like talking about, money this or whatever, I might be like, hey, why am I talking so much about money now? I might be like, let me go check my bank statements. Have I been making more money than I think? Have I been spending? Have I been spending more money than I think I've been spending? Like, whatever it is. So to me, music is just a way for me to try to get hacked into my subconscious just to see, where I'm at. If I'm talking a lot about love, that might either be me saying, maybe I'm not showing enough affection to my wife, and maybe this is me saying, hey, you gotta spend more time with your wife. Or it might be saying, hey, you've been doing great with your wife, and now you're giving yourself credit for, you being the best you could possibly be, or whatever it is. So that's really why I do music. It's to get into my subconscious the best way possible.
So much respect to that, bro. And that's what music should be used for. At the end of the day, music is an art form, it's a form of expression, and it's therapy. I did music for a little while, and I never really told anybody about it. I never pushed or anything, but I don't believe that I could be the person that I am had I not done music. I think I grew so much in the time that I did music that it played a huge part of who I am.
Yeah, man. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's what I would say music is, and then I think everything else comes from that. If you want to, get rich or whatever, I think, at this point, just be yourself, I mean, yeah, you're being really good at rapping. You can talk about that stuff. Oh, I get bitches, or I smoke a lot of weed. All that stuff is awesome. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that stuff isn't cool or whatever. I like those kind of songs too. But I do like, and it's just like, wow, this guy is talking about this, or this lady is singing about her being self-conscious about X, Y, and Z, or something like that. Like, I feel like I think if artists made more music like that, I think that it would help us with a lot of the issues that we have now. Because I know, like, I hear, like, I've been married for a while now, and I've been with my wife for, like, before marriage and by marriage, I've been with her over 10 years now. So I haven't really felt that, but I've, talked to people and they're just like, yo, like, these bitches be tripping. Like, they don't even care about shit. They just want money, and like, they don't want to even get to know people. And then I hear, girls like, oh man, they suck. They just want sex and all this. And I'm just like, but then I think about it, and I think about the music that I hear a lot. Like, when I'm like, if I just go on like my Apple Music or Spotify and just click like top hits, like, I'm not searching for anything. I'm just like, play me whatever's trending right now, click play. And I listen to it, I'm like, this is why. So this is why people are fucked up. Because I'm like, this is what y'all listening to all day. I'm like, and that's the thing. I don't think people respect the level of influence frequencies have. I don't think people, and I'm not saying they don't respect it because like, oh fuck that. I don't think they even really know.
They don't understand it. They really have no comprehension of what it does to them.
So like, yeah, I think that's why when I see a lot of the things, I'm just like, yeah, maybe this is. And then like sometimes when I'm driving around with my friend and he's listening to music, I'm like, yeah, this is why you think women suck because
everything you listen to says fuck bitches.
I'm like, yeah, so this, I'm like, yeah, no wonder this is the type of energy because like this is the type of energy you've been immersing yourself in, man. You know,
hilarious, bro.
So yeah, man, I think that's a big part of. So I think if artists made better music and we educate ourselves or enlighten people, like, hey, you should really take inventory of what you're listening to, and then I think that way, that'll help everybody individually and as a society as a whole. So yeah, man. Other than that, I do have another project that I'm trying to get released here. I just got to get like because this is not. I didn't work with the producer directly. I engineered everything myself with this one, and I know people hate people who like rip beats off of YouTube. I do that, but if I just want to listen to something and just rap to it just for the sake of it or sing to it, even though I'm a terrible singer, but I try to fuck with it sometimes. Then if I know I'm not going to do anything with it, then I'm like, I'm not really too upset about it, But if I'm like, hey, I'm going to actually release this, then I'm going to pay for whatever the lease price is and everything like that. I just think that's just have integrity,
Sure.
If you want people to compensate you for your work, I don't know how you can want that, but then steal other people's shit. That's crazy.
That's backward, bro.
But so once I get that figured out, like, cause I think I don't know, something on my credit card or some shit, it kept blocking my transaction. So I guess I'm gonna have to use a different card, which it's fine. It's a simple thing. But once I get that finished, I'm gonna definitely release it. I already have all the content I want to release for it already. I just got to get that finished, and then I go from there. So this next project, it's going to be called. I think I'm gonna call it. I think I have a name. I think I'm gonna call it The Fragile Mind of the West Side. Ooh. And it's going to be 4 songs. Nothing crazy, like 12, 13 minutes. Because no one has the attention span.
That's it. That's all you need. Yeah.
Like 25 songs, 15 songs. If you're super famous, you might still be able to do that. But at the level I am, I'm just like, yeah, I don't know.
Give them 4 songs. It'll be all right.
Yeah. Pretty much 4 songs. All the lyrically, all the concepts are focused around like different aspects of like life, of not my life, of like my one, like just how I explain this, like how I handle my anger over time, regret, all those kind of things. So that's what this project's all about. Now, it's 4 songs. 3 of the songs, they're really like, if you just listen to the beat, you would, if you're just listening to the beat and you're not listening to the lyrics, it almost sounds like you can possibly turn up to the music. If you listen to the lyrics, you're like, this dude is sad as fuck. I'm not. I was just trying to focus on those feelings with these 4 songs.
Yep.
The other track it's more of like a rap song. The other 3 are more like, these are more upbeat, more turn up. The other song, that's like really like, he's rapping. Like, it's not like, oh my God, it's not like Eminem or Kendrick. It's not like super, super rap, but it's definitely more of a rap feel than the other 3. Okay. So that's kind of the 4 songs in the project. So yeah, one's about, just making bad decisions and like reflecting on like how those bad decisions set me back in certain parts of my life. Another one is pretty much focused on like how I act. I don't really do it anymore. Like, I'm a lot better now, but over time I had to get there. But a lot when I was younger, when I used to get angry, like I was always a pretty chill guy, but when I used to get angry, like once I was like, all right, I'm fucking mad now. Like once I lost it, it was kind of like, oh man, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What is he talking about?
Yeah.
And it was just like, you just couldn't.
Bro. Me too.
Yeah, you couldn't, like, nothing you could say was right. Like if you were wrong. When I was mad, you could have been like, your name is Derek. I'd be like, fuck you, you're stupid.
I'm David.
Yeah, so I have a song that's, about that, and then I have another song that's just, that's just talking about, overthinking and just becoming paranoid. You're just like, the fuck. But then I sit back and I'm just like, why am I actually fucking tripping?
Yep.
Right. So like, I have a song like that, and then another song is just, just talking about like investing in relationships that weren't necessarily healthy, or you having people in your life where you're just like, what the hell? Wow. And then you look back after that chapter of your life ends, you're like, why the fuck were those people in my life for as long?
Yep.
And stuff like that. So that's really what that's what the project's about and what each song is about. So that's that. I'm hoping that they sound better, because like I said, I'm by no means a professional engineer. I don't have like 50 clients where I'm like, oh yeah, I engineer all day. Like, no, I don't. So I mean, every time I just try to get a little bit better every time I make a song. So yeah, I'm hoping that they sound better. I'm hoping that I was able to get the mixing and shit better on these compared to my last project. And that's all I can really work for, is trying to get better increments.
Better than the last time. Yep.
Yeah. So that should be coming out. Well, today's the 26th. Yeah, 26th. I should be releasing that in the next like week or so. Just gotta get the cover art, which I already have an idea for that. So it's gonna be dope, man. It's gonna be lit. I'm gonna be so excited to release it. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything. I don't know what else. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to touch on. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted from me. I don't know how you end interviews.
You're good, bro. I think we're all set. Honestly, you really. I love everything you shared. Your takes on everything are super unique. Everything you're doing is awesome. I love your music. I love what you're doing. I can't wait to see what else you do, for real. This has been an awesome conversation with Character, with Derek, the West Side Askew. Hit him up. Follow him up. Check his music out. Wait for his next drop. I'll see y'all next time. Peace up.
The most prestigious network in the land, the Signature Series Network.